Yoimiya is a single target character. If you want to create elemental reaction damage, only one target gets elemental reaction. This is quite a waste of time, because for example, if there are 5 enemies with cryo applied constantly from Ganyu's burst, Yoimiya can only melt on one target. This problem does not appear much on the trial, because the enemies was weak, so they died too fast. This will be problematic later in Spiral Abyss. Some people say, Yoimiya's range is shorter than Yanfei. Although it's true, the distance itself has only small difference. Yanfei's target locking on her charged attack is shorter than her auto attack's range, though still a little bit farther than Fiscal. In my opinion, Yoimiya is much more suitable to be compared to Fiscal than Yanfei. But range itself will not be a problem. Because her damage is big enough, enemies will usually be dead before they can reach you. Even if the enemy can reach you, you can simply dash out of range. When I tried Yoimiya, she often targeted the wrong opponent. Basically the camera settings from Genshin Impact itself is already flawed. It's too close, which makes it hard to check our surroundings. And it often zooms in on its own. It will also auto-switch target to nearest enemy while fighting a specific target if enemy is getting closer from behind you. This makes it even harder to hit the intended target. I'm especially annoyed when I fight Sisson because of this auto-targeting problem. Yoimiya's burst has very small AoE range. Some people said it will not be a problem, because enemies can be grouped using Venti or Kazuha. I personally think this statement is wrong. This condition only applies for enemies that can be moved together, for example Hilichurl, Treasure Hoarder, and Slime. And even then the explosion still won't hit all enemies, since the burst range is too small. There are a lot of enemies that are bigger and won't be able to be grouped together, for example Samurai type enemies, Mitachurl, Lavachurl, etc. Also, if you use Venti and Kazuha's burst, you can still create pyro reactions, but the problem is the EM used for that reaction will be Venti or Kazuha's EM, and not Yoimiya's EM, which make bringing Yoimiya in the party become pointless. Internal cooldown or ICD is a hidden mechanic that affects the frequency in which elemental attacks apply elemental auras on the same enemy. Simply put, elemental attacks can only apply elemental to enemies, depending on their independent internal cooldown timers. Attacks cannot apply elemental in quick succession, except for some specific abilities. Some pyro characters like Yanfei, Clay and Hu Tao has no ICD charged attack. I tested Yanfei's normal attack, it has 2.5 seconds ICD. You can see here. Vaporize cannot be triggered every time Yanfei use auto attack because of the ICD. But ICD does not trigger when she use charged attack or elemental skill. In contrast comparison, Yoimiya's all elemental attacks share a 4 seconds ICD including her elemental burst. In aspect of ICD, Yoimiya's cooldown is too slow. After trial, it turns out that Yoimiya's ICD is slower than Xingqiu's. So the vaporize that occurs is water plus fire, which only add 50% more damage. While the vaporize that you are looking for is fire plus water, which cause 2 times damage. This make Yoimiya in disadvantage when being put in elemental reaction team. Yoimiya in story quest looked weak because she was built wrong. She had no pyro damage bonus, and was using Noblesse set. With suitable build, she will be stronger. This statement can be true if you build Yoimiya as a main DPS. The problem is, it is not feasible to make Yoimiya main DPS as it is in C0. As the main DPS, she needs her elemental skill which has an 18 seconds cooldown, while it only active for 10 seconds. There are 8 seconds gap in between, meaning Yoimiya has to deal damage using only her physical attacks in this gap. The only way to get close as main DPS is by unlocking C4. And even then, she still can't be solo DPS. She need others triggering her Auros Blaze to reduce cooldown. Some people said, Yoimiya's multiplier is in her auto attacks, which are higher than Ganyu and Fischl. Though it's true, it's not a fair comparison. I will ask you, how do you play Ganyu? Ganyu does not use auto attacks. Comparing Yoimiya and Ganyu for auto attack is like comparing a car to a boat for the speed. And Fischl is a closer comparison, but she is only a 4-star character. All in all, I would personally say she might have higher damage than shown in trial. But it is not because of the damage itself, but because her auto attack is a bit faster than others. Some people also said, with the right build, Yoimiya can hit more than double damage. Using auto attacks from the story quest, even without pyro damage bonus. Though I agree with this statement, it doesn't guarantee that the damage will be enough for Spiral Abyss. Don't forget, the enemies there will be higher in level, defense and health. And in the story quest, Yoimiya have Thundering Pulse, which has an insane stat, and definitely not free to play friendly. Also remember that she can only attack one enemy at a time. Yoimiya can be full support. She doesn't have to be a full support, but that doesn't necessarily make her a full hitter. You cannot maintain her on the field all the time. She will always need other characters because of Auros Blaze, and she will play like child because of her skill time gap. Yes, her normal attack is quite good, but it is not that insane or huge. As for the conclusions, Noblesse set in the story quest is definitely not suitable if you are going to build Yoimiya as DPS. Yoimiya is a perfect blend of DPS and support, and will synergize with Elemental Reaction Team. Though she might be hard to synergize with Elemental Reaction Team, because of the ICD, as described earlier. What do you think about her? Will you pull on her banner?